Good morning and welcome to a dark sunrise safari so far. There's quite a lot of cloud cover, but I think we're going to get a spectacular sunrise this morning. My name is Brent Jamie. I have Jeandre herding on camera. We have Geraldine and Louise in final control, and Jamie and Wium on the other vehicle. So we're in search of what I'm hoping is a leopard. We had monkeys alarm calling around the Vuyatela Lodge. So we're just checking very carefully with the spotlight around this area. And there was a leopard herd sawing by Angie early in the night. The lions have been calling throughout the night. Unfortunately, the lions I heard early this morning are definitely outside of our traverse zone. So I think Jamie's going to see if she can catch up with those two lions from yesterday. They were heading northeast, which is towards the edge, but you never know. Just going very slowly with the spotlight and just switching off and listening every now and then, seeing if we can possibly find whatever disturbed those monkeys in the early hours. It's about 24 degrees Celsius, 76 Fahrenheit. So quite a comfortable temperature for us this morning. So those who watch the Jeandre cam, keep a lookout. Maybe whatever those monkeys are alarm calling pops out in at the southern end of this little creek system. We are going around towards in front of the Galago camp. Now this area is quite a thoroughfare for quite a few different leopards, but if we had to guess, I would say more than likely one of the males, as Karula is on a den to the south of us. What was that? Saw some eyes through there. I can't see them now. Let's get a bit closer. I think it could have been a nightjar just fluttering off. But while we continue to check through this area, let's jump on with Jamie so she can say good morning.
A very good morning to you, and while Brent follows up on Angie's report of the leopard sawing and the monkeys alarm calling, I'm following up, or attempting to follow up, on Lucy's report that she heard lions roaring on the Jeandre Dam camera. My plan is to just check all along the boundaries. Last night at the end of the sunset safari, morning impalas, just drop my lights for them. Last night at the end of the sunset safari, the Birmingham male and the one in Kahuma lioness were moving slowly towards the east, towards Torchwood. Not sure whether or not they crossed at some point last night. The lions that I heard calling this morning sounded as though they were around Buffleshoek, so the property to the north of us. It doesn't necessarily mean, though, that there aren't other lions somewhere around here. Now, the Nkuhumas had moved fairly far west, even for them. Sounds as though they'd crossed through Simbambili. when we last saw them, or when we last heard a report of them. But I said yesterday, and I suspect that it is the case, that that lioness that was mating with the Birmingham boys has probably reached the end of her estrus cycle and will want to be rejoining the rest of her pride. So fingers crossed we'll get an update on them, find out whether they managed to actually have a meal in the end, because they were looking fairly thin, and like they were very, very hungry, and whether or not she managed to relocate them and join up with them once again. And on the night like last night, and just by the way, for those of you who were watching the sunset safari, Dave absolutely won our bet that was going on. He said it wasn't going to rain. He was entirely correct. And whilst it threatened, wow. Sort of landscaping here. It's quite a large tree that's been pushed over. A very large bushveld gardenia. That's quite a shame. It's a beautiful big tree. The elephants, because of the drought in particular, we're going to see more and more large trees being pushed over. That's their job as shapers of the ecosystem, making sure that the woodland, so the trees, don't overrun the grass. All part of a very delicate balance out here. If I don't find any tracks coming in along our boundary, then I think what I'm going to do is jump into Arethusa and see whether or not they've got any updates for us there. And a very good morning to you, Mike, as we drive along and we talk about the things we could be seeing in the early hours of the morning. You were wondering, are wild dogs active at night? And the answer is, Mike, generally not, although there can be the odd exception on a full moon night. Generally, the wild dogs find a nice place to sleep and cuddle up safely with the rest of their pack. Full moon nights, there's a bit more ambient light, and so it's safer for them to move around. But they've evolved that way so as not to be in main competition with leopards, lions, and hyena. They're essentially the dominant diurnal predator during the day, apart from us, of course, or at least the most active during the day. Now, yesterday morning, was it? It was yesterday morning. I've forgotten already. Days sort of start to blur. But yesterday morning, we had the wild dog pack sprinting through Jeandre, keeping us all on our toes, and our toes on the accelerators to try and keep up with them. They dashed off onto Simbombili. Now, Mike, I've said that they're not active at night, but light like this, the wild dogs are already active. So as soon as first light comes through, they're already out and about. And the sunrise, the sky looking truly spectacular. We are on a main road, so power lines also entering our view. But nevertheless, we're continuing our theme of spectacular sunrises and sunsets. Last night's sunset, and it's difficult, I mean, it's a difficult judgment call to make, but I think last night's sunset was one of the most extraordinary that I've seen, at least in this particular year. The clouds rolling in and the sun just poking through and illuminating everything around it. It was absolutely exquisite. And in even better news, they've actually dragged this main road. So tractors come through, dragging tyres behind it on the floor, which is made for a lovely smooth ride as we travel down. And since we were checking the dams yesterday, I think I might take a small detour on my boundary check and just have a look at Treehouse Dam as well. Very good morning to Patrick, who is a new viewer, a first-time viewer, and is watching the show, has just jumped onto the live stream for the very first time, and he would like to know who is Jamie and what is going on. Good morning, Patrick. I'm Jamie. Hi. and we are conducting live safaris, probably the largest safari vehicle in the world. I sit and drive our vehicles around and guide and look for wonderful animals to show you and impart as much knowledge as I possibly can to the viewers. And behind me sits a gentleman who is Wium, and he operates the camera. And I've always said that I think that live wildlife filming and the cameramen that we have filming live wildlife are probably some of the best on the planet. We're coming to you live from, and Philip, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Greater Kruger National Park area. Well, we have our own little section of it, known as Jeandre and Arathusa in the Sabi Sands. So we're sort of on the western edge of the Kruger National Park, but without any fences between us. So we've got 4 million hectares of unfenced conservation area. And what these live safaris bring is the ability to watch stories, tragedies, and triumphs of the various animals of this area unfold over years and years and years. We have a couple of main cat characters. For example, you might have heard me talking about the Nkuhuma Pride. That is a pride of 5 lionesses, and the Birmingham Boys, a coalition of 5 young males, and the Styx Pride, a group of 3 lionesses, all of whom at the moment are very heavily pregnant. And that doesn't even begin to touch on our famous leopard characters, Karula, of course, being the first that comes to mind. Karula, known as the Queen of Juba. Her territory, the heart of her territory, falls essentially next to where we live. And then a number of her daughters, Shadow and Tundi, a couple of very large males, Tingana and Mvula, that move through this area. And then, of course, all of the neighboring leopards on the side, Karula's sons, Kanyuma and Quarantine, and Shimbambalan. There's a whole range of different characters that we see, and that's just talking about the big cats. We've also got at least 2 wild dog packs, if not 3, that wander through here. And wander is maybe an understatement, that race through here at high speed on fairly regular occasions. We get to know the different elephants and so on. You sort of get the idea, Patrick. There's the hyena clan as well. A hyena clan with 3 cubs, all under 4 months old. And we've been observing that hyena clan for as long as these live safaris have been running, watching their successes. And Patrick, you've chosen a very good time to jump on board because, well, let me rephrase that. You've chosen a very interesting time to jump on board. It looks very green, and that's because we've had a lot of rain in the last week. But this particular area finds itself in the iron grip of the worst drought in about 100 years, is what climatologists are saying. And we'll be watching the way and the impact with which the way in which this drought impacts this ecosystem and the animals that call it home. We shall see. And Patrick, stay with us. There's always exciting things, and our regular viewers will tell you just how unpredictable the live safaris are going to be. Because we can't script and because we can't edit, we bring only the raw truth. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes you drive around like this and not much emerges, and then all of a sudden a leopard will run across the road or a snake will rear up in front of your car. You just never know. Thank you, Phoebe. I'm glad you think that was a true reflection of SafariLIVE. It's my personal opinion about what this is all about. And I'm sure regular viewers will have their own opinions that might be slightly different, but nevertheless, I think we're all united by the love of what we're seeing out here. There's all kinds of exciting things to be found. And to be able to have this ability to share a place that I not just love, but the only place where I feel truly content in the world is, I think, an incredibly fortunate position to be in. So Patrick, tell your friends, tell your family Let's see if we can't spread the word of this entertainment, conservation, interesting mix of experiences that is Safari Live. Here we go. Treehouse Dam. And while I investigate and have a look, I think you might, I'm sure some of you would like to see how full Treehouse is. Tock, 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 tock. Tock, 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 tock. That is the call of a foam nest frog. Hiding somewhere underneath the trees. And there you go. Look at how full Treehouse Dam is. It's wonderful to see. This was the final dam on my checklist in the last 2 days. I've checked them all. They're all looking beautifully full, not as full as they would on a normal year, but nevertheless, at least there's some water to tide our animals over. As I continue on my search for the lions of Jeandre and the surrounding areas, let's find out how Brent's search is going.
So we haven't found any tracks or any sign of what those monkeys were alarm calling at. So we've headed a little bit further to the west and north, and we're just going to check around here. I did hear some lions calling. Unfortunately, they did sound like they were north of our traverse area. Just reached that sort of half light where your eyes are actually better than the spotlight. The reason I'm keeping the lights on in front of that is just in case I can see any tracks on the road. So, Jim Butler, a very good morning and a happy Safari Live to you. Jim would like to know where Jamie and I went when we were on break in the Kruger particularly, and did we see anything cool? Well, Jim, we did 2 little trips through the Kruger. One from Kruger Gate and then out Orpen Gate. And on that little trip, we did see we saw cheetah hunting, which was very cool, as well as wild dogs. And then on the second, slightly longer trip, where we actually spent 2 nights, we went way up to the north to an area called Pafuri. And there we're going to look at the magnificent trees they have there. Really, really big trees along the Lavuvu River. And we saw eland while we were up there, which is also very cool. Not a species we see too often, or if at all, in this part of the world. It's a little bit too wet for eland down south here. They prefer a slightly more arid climate. And we also saw sesame, another antelope species, part of the hartebeest family. And quite a few lions and elephants and the normal sort of Kruger things. Some nice birds. And one of the biggest herds of buffalo I've seen in South Africa, probably around 1,000 strong. And that was all way up north in the park. Very interesting spot in that area called Crook's Corner. And that is the confluence of the Lavuvu and Limpopo rivers. And why it is called Crook's Corner, it was sort of a good hangout spot for all the sort of old rogues of yesteryear. The ivory hunters, the gold smugglers, the illegal labor recruiters. And basically there's a point that marks the boundary between 3 different countries there. In those days, it would have been Portuguese East Africa, South Africa, and Rhodesia. And depending on where the rogues had been misbehaving, and depending on which law enforcement came in search of them, they would just stand on the other side of the international boundary. And it's even said that once one of the rogues got caught out a little bit, and all 3 different law enforcement agencies arrived at the same time. And so all he did was stand on top of the little concrete pylon that marks the international boundary, and said, well, now you 3 law officers have to fight for who gets the right to arrest me. And none of them could agree, so they all eventually left, and he got off scot-free. I think it was Mbevekane was his name. So while we continue to search the western sectors of Djuma Private Game Reserve, Jamie's got a very fluffy creature to show you.
A fluffy, but in this particular case, truly dignified waterbuck bull. The males, of course, having those large, upwardly curved horns. And as with all waterbuck, the distinctive circle of white on their bottoms. The reason for which is much contested amongst the various evolutionary scientists and biologists. And there we go, we have one of those joys of live wildlife filming. He was lying right next to the road. He doesn't want to, playing a little bit camera shy. Also, interestingly enough, the emblem of the Sabi Sands itself is the head of a waterbuck, not an actual real live head, I mean a drawing of a head, just to clarify. White around the eyes and around the nose. Now that fluffiness is because, as the name suggests, a waterbuck likes water, and thus very often, particularly in areas where there are perennial river systems, so river systems that are flowing, they'll spend a lot of time wading through rivers. And that in turn means that they spend a lot of the day rather damp and soggy. So the thick, hollow fibers of the coat allow it to be insulated, and that combined with an oil that is spread over their fur makes them essentially waterproof, not completely, but essentially waterproof, while at the same time allowing airflow through the fibers of the coat so that they don't overheat terribly. Because out here, with temperatures that can easily soar in summer over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, over 40 degrees centigrade, and in fact, I think the record for the Kruger area is about 50-odd degrees centigrade. I'm not quite sure what that equates to in Fahrenheit. It must be about 115 or so. Having a good scratch along his side using his horns. And Kermie, who's watching on YouTube, you were wondering, do the female waterbuck have horns? And the answer is no, they do not. That's how I know immediately that it is a waterbuck bull. Now, the interesting thing about that is that out here, certain antelope species, both the male and the female, have horns, and with others, like this waterbuck, only the male has horns. And I'll give you a very quick explanation, the strongest explaining theory as to why that is. It's to do with habitat. So waterbuck like nice, dense, vegetated habitats around river systems and around creek systems where they can hide away. And in those situations, horns are actually a bit of a disadvantage, because if you run through there, you could easily get yourself tangled up. Now, the females don't need horns to protect themselves. They can run and hide. But the males need the horns because they still, whilst they could still run and hide, they still need to compete with each other for access to the females. In this particular case, we've got a lone bachelor. It's not uncommon to see them in slightly larger bachelor groups, all fighting each other, play sparring with those horns. That same theory applies to an animal like a kudu or an inyala, or an impala even. But when you get to antelope species such as wildebeest or eland, the largest antelope species out here, or an oryx, which is something, if we saw here, would probably be considered to be exceptionally lost. They have far more desert animals. Those sorts of animals are antelope that prefer open areas. So instead of running and hiding, very often the females, in order to defend themselves and their youngsters, will stand and fight off whatever particular threat happens to be around. So that is why the females have horns in antelope species that live in more open areas. There's also a theory that that sort of thing allows the females, or allows the sub-adult males of an antelope species to stay in the herd longer, because they say that the males, and usually the males are responsible for kicking out adolescent males when they reach a certain age, and that's around sexual maturity. But that to me is a theory that doesn't quite fit. Just having a look here, something that always fascinates me, and it's just a pile of dung on the side of the road, but nevertheless, it's always an extraordinary, oh, there we go, trying not to stall the vehicle. Something extraordinary to see. Now, believe it or not, the animal responsible for those piles of poop is a 2-ton hippopotamus, so a 4,000-pound hippopotamus. And in this case, it will be a dominant bull. Only the dominant males come out and scatter their dung like that as a way of marking their territory. Females scatter in the water, but not on land. So males come through and wagged his tail very rapidly whilst defecating, and that's what's created all of those blobs around here. But what's interesting about that is there are no hippos, to the best of my knowledge, in any of the surrounding dams at the moment, apart from around Sydney's dam, which is about... Sydney's, I think, will probably be the closest, unless there's a dam further down in Chitwa. But that is about 1.5 kilometers, so just under a mile away. And that is what hippo do at night. They are nocturnal, and they move through and cover incredibly large distances through the night. So that dung there is fresh from sometime last night or early this morning. Nice to see the hippos looking a lot happier. Ooh, goodness me, Wendy. Here you go. Gently does it. Wendy's lost a little bit of power, and whilst I'm not excusing every stall that happens, as does happen when you're driving out here, she's become particularly easy to stall, even driving in low range, which is that's slightly embarrassing. To stall in second gear low range is a bit embarrassing. That's okay. We shall continue on. Another thing about being my size, Brent has the opposite problem. Brent barely fits in this vehicle. I've piled on cushions so that I can actually see and talk to you, but at the same time, the clutches down there, not nearly as bad as some of the other vehicles I've driven. The Jeandre, for example, I almost feel like I'm eye level with the dashboard. And there's some actually, on the subject of our hippo, there's some really distinct hippo tracks in the soil. Going down the road, this is our gentleman who was responsible for that defecation, or the dung along the road. It's actually really nice and clear. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. Let me hop out and just show you exactly what I mean. Right, I'm going to do this carefully this time, because last time I nearly took my kneecap off and tangled myself in the side of the door. How's this one? Is this one okay? Perfect, thank you, Wium. So if you have a look here, here's 1 toe, and I'll outline it just so that it's a bit easier to see. 1 toe, 2 toe, 3 toe, 4 toe, and then the back of the foot falls somewhere around there. So there's his front foot, and like all hippos, he's actually been a bit lazy with his back foot. So his back foot's over here. And what they very, very frequently do is they flick sand with their back foot. So there's a little bit of a flick along here. So essentially what he's doing, dragging his foot. leaving that kind of mark. That's a bit exaggerated, but that's very common with hippo, and an easy way of identifying their tracks. Probably should have looked around before I got out, but anyway, he's not here still. He's on his way. Surprisingly light footfalls at times in this wet sand, considering how large an animal a hippo is. And speaking a little bit about the anatomy, we spoke about the horns on the antelope species. Sibusisu's got a different question, and it's fact one I have never been asked. And Sibusiso, if you don't mind, I'm going to stop for 1 second. I promise I'll be with your question in just now. Just looking at this sunrise. The sky looks like it's on fire. Beautiful. And some alarm calling, go-away birds at the same time. Sounds like they're calling around twin dams. I think I'm going to go and investigate. It's only the go-away birds, though. I don't hear any squirrels calling. Been completely distracted. I'm just listening to... It does actually sound... All right, let's go to twin dams. It sounds like that's coming from there. It's quite a large block of bush. And while we head off there, and I'm actually going to take the vehicle out of low range. Sibusiso, you were wondering, why do antelope species have shorter tails than leopards or lions? And the answer is twofold. One is that the tail is very, very important in terms of balance for bigger cats. So being able to steer themselves and chase after the antelope species. Antelope have a different foot design to the leopards and lions. The leopards and lions have slightly more foot on the ground, if that makes sense. The antelope actually only have 2 toes. Those hooves are just 2 toes. That gives them quite a good amount of traction on the ground, whereas with leopards and lions, they need slightly more in the way of balance because their bodies are longer compared to their height. And then the other important thing is that for leopards and lions, the tail plays a really crucial role in visual communication. So Sibusiso, those are probably the 2 reasons that to me spring to mind as to why antelope might have shorter tails than leopards or lions. As I race through to work out why the grey go-away birds are shouting, "Go away!" Let's find out how Brent's morning's going.
So we're on the western edge of our traverse area, and we are searching in earnest for any sign of the rest of the Nkahuma pride. It is very much a gamble. I think they are still quite far into the west, and they caught a zebra yesterday in an area I don't think I've ever heard of them going before. So they crossed into Ottawa, which is very, very far to the west, beyond the elephant plains. And they will start moving back. I think more likely tomorrow morning is going to be a better bet, but you never know with lions, and they're quite capable of moving that distance in a night. So we're just checking very slowly because of all the rain. The ground's very hard. And there's always a chance of seeing something else. This is where the wild dogs crossed yesterday, and we all know they can just pop up anywhere, like they did yesterday morning. So a very warm Safari Live welcome to Eric in Pittsburgh. And Eric's said, I mentioned that I saw cheetah in Kruger. I was wondering, have I had any sightings in Jeandre recently? We haven't. I actually haven't even heard of a cheetah track in a couple of months. So hopefully, who knows, maybe this morning is the morning that the cheetah make their appearance again. I've got a feeling we're going to be a little bit quiet on the cat front this morning. So let's see if Jamie is willing and able, and we can have a little birding competition between the vehicles. And we can see which vehicle, Rusty versus Wendy, Brent and Jeandre versus Wium and Jamie, who can get the most bird species on this sunrise safari. Probably a good time to take advantage of some of our migratory species that are going to be leaving us quite soon. So, you ready, Jeandre? Anna-Marie says she'd love to see a ground hornbill today. Oh, and now that is something quite spectacular. Unfortunately, even though it is straight down the electricity lines, but it does make for quite a stunning shot. I think I'm even going to take a photograph of that. Beautiful. Anna-Marie, we have been seeing ground hornbills quite a lot recently, so there's a good chance. I did hear one calling earlier this morning. Now I think we're going to get this burst of light, and then I think it's going to rise up into the clouds again. So there's just that tiny little bit of... Oh, bless you, Jeandre. Here we go. I think Jeandre might have had a fly tickling his nose. There are quite a lot of them around this morning. Okay, so I think I found the first bird of the morning. If we go into this, about there. There it is. Cape Turtle Dove, number 1. So I think our record, I can't remember the record, but it must be about 15 or 20 species on a single safari. So apart from being in competition with the other vehicle, I'm aiming to try beat my personal best on the birding challenges. So let's go see what else we can find. And quite often, when we decide to do this and start searching for birds, a cat just pops up. So, just to clarify the rules, we have to put the bird on camera. It has to be seen by the viewers, and it has to be a good view so we can identify, so you guys can also identify it at home. And I think that would be a nice way to start. Ooh, Jeandre, did you see it? Ooh, that's going to be... See, there was a perfect example. The bird disappeared before we could put it on camera. It was a white-browed scrub robin, but it doesn't count. There you go, look at that sun. As we... Jeandre, quick. There we go. Amma falcon. Nice, Jeandre. Very well done. There's a definitely... Oh, he's come back over our head. There we go, a little Amma falcon. Look at that. I just love the way birds of prey fly. Using that aerodynamic and streamlined shape. Flap, and then glide.
Good morning, Mobile Station. Can I have an update, please?
Oh, well done, Jeandre. Lovely camera work. So there we go. That's a nice one. A nice number 2. I think I'm feeling lucky with the birds today. Standing by.
There was a report from one of the cheetah guys that the Madutch crossed back last night on 2 buoys. He didn't know exactly where, probably from somewhere in northern Arethusa, Simbapili side. Just keep an eye out.
Copy, thanks. I'm on Gari, having Triple M North at the moment. I haven't seen any tracks. I'll see if I'll pop across to the Western Channel and see if I can get an update. So there we go. That's exciting.
Copy that.
A report that the wild dogs might have crossed back onto Jeandre. I'm just going to jump across, see if I can get an update. Morning, mobile stations. Is anyone in the west copy me?
Goodbye. Good morning, Brent.
Morning. Just looking for an update on those Madash and if there's anything happening on safari. Copy, thanks. Whereabouts? Copy, thanks very much. We'll have a look around and keep you guys updated. So, let me just get hold of Jamie.
Check close, right? Triple M towards the gate.
Let me just hit.
Copy that.
So exciting. Unfortunately, we have gremlins in that area where the wild dogs crossed. So I'm going to see Taxon sounds like he's heading up there anyway, so I'm just going to give him that update. Tax. No answer. Taxon.
Morning, 458.
Morning, Tax. Update for you there that the Madash actually crossed at the gate. So I don't know if you want to check around Sydney's.
Okay, copy that. Thanks. I'll check that photo.
Aha! Now here we have quite an interesting little track. Let's try and see. Does it look like it's better on your side, Jeandre? It's quite a difficult one on this side. Can you see that there? Yeah, much better on your side. So one of the animals I'm really looking forward to being the first person to find for you guys on the safari. There we go. Very distinct track. And you see those 3 big toes? It means aardvark. So there you go, an ant bear track. Those 3 massive toes that represent the claws that they dig up the ground with. That's definitely from some time during the night. And I'm in search of an active aardvark burrow at the moment. I would like to put my camera trap up there, try to get some footage. Unfortunately, I haven't found any active burrows at the moment. All the ones I know about seem to be inactive, but hopefully that'll change soon. So, good morning, Clayton, who's watching via YouTube. Clayton would like to know, do birds of prey ever attack monkeys in the trees? Now, Clayton, they do. Certain species in particular. The one that we have here that is most likely to do that is the martial eagle. But they are more sort of general. They'll eat baby impala, steenbok. There's one species that I've never heard of in the Sabi Sands. There are some way up in northern Kruger, along the Lavuvu River, maybe on the olifants as well, called the crowned eagle. And they are almost specialist monkey monkey eaters. Let's see, where is he now? Wrong way. Oh, there's some impala that Jeandre has spotted in the distance. Now, this is a truly magnificent bird. And very big eagle. And massive talons. And they have a very interesting way of catching monkeys. And they always live in pairs, so the one will fly like this, quite high and circle above a troop of monkeys, and the monkeys will sit on top of the tree going an alarm call at it, while the other actually flies below the tree line and sort of zooms through. So the monkey will be sitting there and it comes from literally almost off the ground, zooms through, comes up and then grabs the monkey off the top of the tree. Incredible stuff. This bird has actually even been recorded taking a small toddler from a rural area in Zimbabwe. So the only avian human hunter around. So very, very interesting bird. More forests and larger tree areas. We don't get them in this part of the world, but they do occur further north in Kruger and up towards the escarpment in the mountains. But one of my favorite eagles. Morning, Joey, who's in good old Oz, a place Jeandre was recently cavorting about in, visiting his sister. But Joey would like to know if there are any sacred ibis at Djuma. I've seen them once. It is possible to get them here, but they move through. They prefer sort of larger bodies of water. Hello, imps. Now, are you going to provide us with an oxpecker for our bird challenge, imps? I don't know if the oxpeckers are up yet. And let's go to one. Oh, no, she's moving now, don't worry. And see all the movement of the ears and tails, signifying that the flies have seriously exploded after this rain and a bit of warmth. So if you hear that noise, it's just me slapping my head trying to keep the flies off. Of course, they're probably overjoyed with the nice greenery that's around. Oh, coming through at speed. Nice. Let's just listen for a second. There might be one more. No, I think that's the wrap. Now, we're about to come onto Impala Plains, and there's a good chance of adding a bird or two to our list. It's about 2 minutes away, not even. Okay, hopefully the lapwings are about and don't prove me wrong as we turn off onto... Oh, I've spotted Jeandre. Jeandre's getting into this. Oh, it's another species. 2 species I think we can get here. Where did the other one fly? So, a nice one we see regularly, the grey go-away bird. And if we come down and out to the left in the top of that small silver cluster leaf, Jeandre.
Stations, this is Mike going mobile in the north.
And there we go. Yellow-billed hornbill. So that's number 4. Look. Very, very pretty bird. Oh, off he goes. So, we've got to get a little bit of a nice lead going before we link across to Jamie. But I think it's time to let her have the opportunity to try and get a few bird species of her own. So let's go see what Jamie can find.
Oh dear. He's already taken all of the easy ones, or at least most of the... Oh, there's a big one. There's a big bird. Quick, chase, Ferrari Safari. Where's it gone? Come back, bird, come back. This could be a highly entertaining competition. No! No, it has vanished into the skies. I might end up completely changing my route just to try and keep up. How devastating. It was a big raptor. It was a big thing with wings, and it's gone, and I don't even know what it was. Ah. Dear. Bother. Oh, bother. Right, well, let's try and stick with our original route plan. Everything with wings seems to be escaping me. I thought about a caveat to this competition, and the idea that the person who finds the most unusual bird could also get extra points, but I think that might be complicating things a little bit too much. And the last time Brent and I had a competition to find the most different species, it was mammals, and every time I found one, Brent decided there was a different rule that meant it didn't apply. We still won, though. Birds. Now, apparently, just by the way, on updates for things other than winged creatures, one of the Birmingham boys crossed into Torchwood last night, so he did leave that female, the Birmingham boy that we saw last night. The rest of the pride is down near Cheetah Plains. We'll be keeping an eye out for that lone Nkahuma female. Fingers crossed, as I said at the start of drive, she's relocated the rest of her pride. Wium, why are there no birds? Why is there not a single thing with feathers? We're looking for cats too. Only cats. Wium says only cats. A cat competition. Who can find the most cats? I might actually drive straight past a leopard because I'm so busy looking for birds. Luckily, I have Wium on the back, who definitely won't let me get away with that. And Simon, also on the same page as Wium, Simon would like to look for a rooi kat, a red cat, also known as a caracal. Definitely one of the most unusual creatures out here. Apparently they get seen fairly regularly on the road towards Simbambili. Now, Simon, we're always on the lookout, I promise, for a caracal. A caracal, for those of you who don't know, and I can hear birds, just need to find them. A caracal is about half the size, or a bit less than half the size, of a leopard. So many birds calling. Where are they all? Oh, excuse me, sorry. That took me by surprise. They do sound very close to me. There's a lark calling. Cisticulars. All a possibility, but apparently don't count unless we get them on screen. But yes, a caracal, to finish off with Simon's question, is one of the most beautiful cats that occurs out here. It is about this tall, very stocky, very powerful cat with black tufts on its ear. And the rooi kat, red cat, is what the color of the fur. It's an almost brick red color. Definitely one of the most beautiful creatures and fairly unusual. It's, I can see a bird, and it's one of those little brown jobbies. It's sitting at the top of that dead tree, where the tree's fallen over, where the branch oh. Well, that's devastating. Birds with wings. All right, onwards. Onwards, we shall catch up. This could actually descend to the point where we are requesting crash cuts from the directors for different bird species. I'm looking at that little black bird up there. You see it there, Wium? There, he's on the edge of that branch there. 1 tick for us, a fork-tailed drongo. If Brent's going to try and take all of the easy ones, I'm going to reciprocate. A fork-tailed drongo, 1 tick. We are once again in the running for this competition. Sorry, I just need to listen to the Game Drive channel quickly. Sounds as though Tax might have found the tracks of the wild dog going into Buffleshoek. I just want to listen carefully. There is a white-crested helmet shrike in that tree there. Can you see him there, Wium? Yeah. Bird number 2. A white-crested helmet shrike with their bright yellow eyes and head cocked around. Very often you see these birds in feeding parties, which means there might be other species here with us as well. Keep looking. I have a feeling, no, actually I refuse to say this. I was about to say I have a feeling that Brent might actually win this competition, but I refuse to give in this early in the game. We just both have an exceptionally competitive streak that runs through both of us, which can make these games highly entertaining. I don't want to get too distracted with just the birds. We'll keep looking for other things as well. Come on, Franklin. You're next on the easy tick list. Right, let us continue on. It sounds as though Taxon has found the wild dog tracks heading up towards Sydney's Dam and across behind that into Buffleshoek. He's asking some of the other people, because that is north of our Traverse area. We can't drive there. So he will be double checking for us, but you never know with wild dog. They can change direction at any time and they cover huge amounts of ground. And just thinking about that, I'm going to make my way up to our northern boundary and I'm going to help them out on that side. Where is it? I can hear it. Come on, woodland kingfisher. I heard you somewhere. Stop playing hard to get. This is ridiculous. It has to be hiding somewhere in one of these trees. I can hear birds all around me. It's just a matter of finding them. Know that the Scops owl lives in Yuri's garden. And if we get to a desperate tie point, you'll probably find that at the end of the sunrise safari, we're both desperately racing to try and get there. Brent's on the right side of the reserve for the ground hornbills as well, that have been spending plenty of time in that area. Indiana James, you were wondering, on the subject of birds and their relatives, you were wondering if the grey go-away bird is related to cockatiels. And Indiana, no, it's not. It is, in fact, more related to a branch of the bird family known as the turacos. And that probably needs a little bit of clarification, and it also gives me the opportunity to sit and listen for birds and try and spot them for you. Let me just quickly find the turacos in my bird book. So cockatiels, more towards the almost parrot-like family. 200 16. The one thing about the rain is that we've definitely got lots and lots of flies about. So there we go. This is the Turaco family, and they are spread throughout Africa, a separate branch to the cockatiel family. And as you can see, with multiple members, lots and lots of them throughout Africa, all exquisitely beautiful. Then you've got the page of the go-away birds. There's a couple of different, they're actually more plantain eaters. It's sort of a combination of Turacos and plantain eaters. Turaco is known for their vivid greens and purples and reds, but a very similar body shape. Here we have the plantain eaters at the bottom. Not something you would see here. You'd see them more towards the northern end of Africa. But that is more where our go-away birds fall in terms of bird families. Similar, I can see exactly where your thought process is coming from. Much smaller beaks in terms of proportion to their body size, so a lot thinner. But nevertheless, I can see what you mean. Quite a similar shape in terms of body structure. Now, we know that along this road there are all kinds of lilac-breasted rollers and European rollers. Got to be able to see at least one of them. And the other nice thing, the other advantage that we're going to have in terms of looking for birds at this time of day and after the rains is that the reproductive termites have all been exploding out of the termite mounds. You get this giant population explosion that occurs straight after the rain. And that is something that all of the birds absolutely love. I'm going to continue on my search for different bird species and other things. And while I do that, let's have a look at the sunrise that Brent has.
Look at that stunning sky. And as Jeandre slowly moves out, you can see that rain bucketing down in the distance. Definitely getting some good rain, probably in Kruger, by the looks of things. You can hear the birds starting to increase their dawn chorus. Unfortunately, they all seem to be quite far from us. So we're going to move. Oh, you can also hear what sounds to me, and this is going to be very interesting, see if we can figure out what it is, if we can spot what's making the noise. It sounds like a zebra stamping its feet to keep flies off it. Well, let's go have a look. There we go. So somewhere here, just hearing this doof, doof, doof. Oh, here we go. Let's see if he sits, and he's gone. There's a nice little flycatcher that disappeared. But that noise of stamping feet is somewhere in here. Might be a bit too far from the road for us to see. Pretty confident it's a zebra. No, how's that? So what I thought it was zebra stamping its feet. It's actually an elephant flapping its ears. Isn't that incredible? And strange enough, we didn't hear any feeding sign. Let's just see if we can find a way in there. So we are still quite far from them. Just want to make sure that they're not an unrelaxed herd now. Once we approach a little bit closer, we'll be able to read their body language to see if we're going to go much closer to them or not. I'm just looking for a nice entrance through the bush. I'm going to have to go a bit further forward.
coming for yours. Hey, yours, welcome.
That looks okay. As we sneak between the silver cluster leaves, I'll show you there, we can see the ellies through the gap there. It looks like a little breeding herd. So let's go a bit closer. They definitely know we're here. They can hear us, and you can see they're still quite relaxed. No sign of being distressed about us coming closer. So, yay! Let's go have a closer look.
We'll have to wait and see whether or not Brent manages to find that elephant. Unfortunately, Rusty having some signal breakup. You're back on our vehicle once again. But your timing is impeccable because we're just about to reach Buffleshoek Dam. And fingers crossed, we might have some waterfowl of different descriptions to show you. And of course, to win us this competition. At the same time, I'm just listening to updates on the Game Drive channel, and according to one of the Buffleshoek landowners, they saw a male leopard wandering what it sort of looked like he might be coming south towards the Buffleshoek boundary. So this is a good place for us to be. We've got the possibility of wild dog, the possibility of male leopard, and most importantly, birds. Oh, is a green... There's a prinia. How awesome. Now, that is a cute little bird. I hope you all saw it. There it is. There we go. Oh, hold on. Yes. I'll show you exactly what that is. That is a beautiful little bird. And that definitely counts on our list. Let me just find a nice picture for you.
I think that one should count too.
That should count too, I agree, Wium. Particularly since all of the effort. Let's just go to Buffleshoek Dam first while I page through this book, because nobody wants to watch me do that when we have better things to look at. And I'll show you a nice picture of that particular little bird. That was not a bad start at all. Oh, pied kingfishers. That's awesome. Here we go. There's one for our list. A little pied kingfisher. And look at that. They're actually... Oh, what have you seen there, Wium? They're actually nesting. Sorry, they're actually nesting in the holes there around that dam. Looks as though they've made their nests there. Very common for kingfishers to do that. See all of those nest holes? That is what we're looking at. So what does that bring us up to? 4 now.
There's another one, too.
Here's another. Oh, hammerkop. Hammerkop. Number 5. Red-billed buffalo weaver. Oh, we'll get it. We'll get it. There he is, flapping about in the nesting site. That's sort of cheating, because we know we're going to see them there. But you know what? You needs will what needs must. That's one other. Oh.
And these ones are mating.
Oh, mating. What have we got there? I thought it was buffalo weavers, but it's not. Oh, wow. They look like little flycatchers. Where are they? A spotted flycatcher. Oh, hold on. That was awesome. And I actually think that was one of the grey-headed sparrows. Sorry, I was looking at the beak completely wrong. Distracted by all the bird activity that's happening around here. Let's even shuffle a bit further forward, see if we can't get one of the lapwing species. Come on, birdies. Are there not any wagtails or lapwings along the edge of the surface of this dam? Doesn't look like it. Just keep looking for birds. I'm still trying to find you a picture of that lovely little bird that we saw earlier. So it was a green-winged petilia. Sorry, I said prinia, I meant petilia. And there we go. Got the page of the bird we were looking at. Beautiful little bird, very similar to waxbills and finches and their relatives. I can hear crested francolin, which should almost count, but we won't even try to get away with that one. Flies. So that's a green-winged petilia, P-Y-T-I-L-L-A. Buffleshoek Dam was a good choice in terms of productivity. Just trying to see if I can spot any other birds. Buffalo weavers. Let's go and check the other side of the dam, since we're here. It's also a good place to check for all kinds of other animals, since it is a permanent water access point. Go away, bird. I think Brent's already snatched that one from us.
Yeah, but he didn't say you can't use a bird twice.
That's true. Wium said he didn't say that you can't use a bird twice, so Brent's versus mine. He didn't clarify. He had the opportunity to clarify the rules, and he didn't, and I've already lost count, so I'm going to have to ask you all to keep a count up for us. I'm on 7, apparently. Onwards. More birds. Let's collect all of the 300-plus bird species that you could see on Jeandre. Or do we think that may be a little bit optimistic? Now, Jim Butler would like us to find you a secretary bird. I promise you, Jim, the person, let's make this rule. This is how confident I am. The person that finds the secretary bird wins the competition. It's like, I don't know what equivalent it would be, but essentially it is the joker in a pack of cards, and it'll be the winning card. Poor Brent. Let's just go through this dip. Any little bird species on the edge here? The stations, I think. Mike called in the Nkonzo for that Medora Ngala crossing towards Torchwood. Just giving them an update on the lions from last night. Any other bird species? Now, the black-crowed night herons were nesting somewhere in the dip. Buffleshoek Dam. Brent just trying to chat to me at the same time, distract me from my bird search. He definitely distracted me from my bird search. He just wanted to know where I was. Didn't have anything else to add. Dirty tactics. Now, poor Brent has challenged me to a bird competition. And whilst Brent's knowledge on birds is absolutely, what would I say, almost insurmountable in terms of what he knows, he didn't count on the fact that he doesn't actually have signal or picture. So, possibly not the best day for a challenge. I can't win by default, there's no fun.
It's a millipede eating a mushroom.
Oh, that's interesting. How's that? Wium's just spotted something really interesting. I'm trying to find you the best view of it possible. A millipede eating a mushroom, and it definitely is eating it. Now, I did not know that. I mean, I know that they eat sort of mulch and vegetative matter, and I guess it makes sense that fungi would fall on that list. Fungi, of course, being very high in nutrients. That being said, the fact that this millipede is eating this particular type of mushroom, please, doesn't mean that this mushroom is edible for humans. Already, the millipedes have a very they are actually completely poisonous to us. They've got a cyanide-type toxin within them. They're definitely not on our menu, and it could also be that they are adapted, as a lot of different animal species are, adapted to utilizing different food options. But how's that? That's a first for me. A millipede with its multiple legs eating a mushroom. Well spotted, Wium. Going to sort of narrowly dip backwards. Ooh. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Speaking of fungus, Simon wanted to know if I'd had a chance to research that giant fungus that I found 2 days ago, that Simon actually helped me identify as the bushveld bolete. And Simon, I have. I did try and do a little bit of research. I'm trying to find, somebody sent me a really useful, what's the word, document on the different mushrooms of South Africa, but the internet proved to be largely lacking in specific species information for that bolete. Now, the bolete family has got quite a few edible specimens, but I'm not entirely sure that ours falls amongst them. I couldn't find any clarification. And then I went specifically into the Latin name, and I had a look at the family name, or the, oh, for goodness sake, what's the word? You've got the species, and then you've got the step up. The genre, no, man. Genus. Thank you very much. Thanks, Wium. Honestly, sometimes the brain just draws a blank. It goes to reach for information that I know is there, and then kind of just doesn't get there. So yes, the genus. I went and had a look specifically at the genus of that particular fungus. And Simon, I'm still researching. Let's put it that way. Google has proved not to be all that sufficient in providing answers. Sorry, roadblock there. Sorry, Wium, I wasn't watching. I was looking for birds. Why are all of our birds absent? We need a head start on Brent before he manages to find signal again. But I can't win by default. That's not fair. But yes, Simon, I promise you I'll keep updating you as I find more information. Steph and I were going to do some research on it as well. He said that he has a fungus book, so I'll go and have a look. And actually, come to think of it, I've actually got some information as well. I've just remembered I have a book on the general species of the bushveld that might have some more information on it. I've only just realized that, Simon, so I'll double check there as well. Keep your eyes peeled for birds and wagging wild dog tails. Ex-Ranger was commenting on our millipede experience and would like to know whether or not the millipede perhaps attempting to brighten up his weekend for the rest of the weekend. I'm not sure. Ex-Ranger, maybe, you never know. Certainly, a lot of the mushrooms out here do have hallucinogenic properties, but they're the kind of hallucinogenic properties that you'll hallucinate a while before you die. It's that kind of general toxin that pervades most of the mushrooms out here. There are some that are edible. I don't know that many, though. No, I definitely won't be thinking about nibbling on them. Magpie shrikes. Puffed up at the back there. A magpie or a long-tailed shrike. actually one of my favorite sounds in the bush. I love their gentle call. Beautiful little birds. And number 8 on the list. Just thinking about it, in the last hour and a half, or no, let's say the last hour, since Brent listed this as a competition, this is why birds and insects and some of the smaller fauna is a crucial aspect of our lives out here. We've already, just between the two of us in the last hour, got 12 species odd. By the end of this drive, we could have easily 20 or more, probably close to over 40 or more. Now, when Brent and I had the mammal competition, as wonderful as that was, we ended up with maybe 20 different mammals between us. Admittedly, it was a quiet, cloudy morning, as this morning is, but nevertheless, it's we forget just how teeming with life the bush is that isn't necessarily mammalian existence. So the avian and the arthropods, the insects, all of those count too, which is why a competition like this, aside from getting us both exceptionally involved, is very important. KR Melton has given us a heads up as to where to go and look for our winning bird, the secretary bird, and that apparently you have seen them on the airstrip. I have heard that before, and I would be very excited to see one. A secretary bird, for those of you actually unfamiliar with one, is a very tall raptor species with long, long legs that is essentially almost uniquely adapted for snake hunting. They stroll through long clearing patches with just grass and search for the snakes moving through those sorts of areas. We don't often see them. We have seen them once or twice. I've seen them once off air on Arethusa before. They are about. This is such a tricky condition to get the birds that I'm seeing on camera, because I am seeing birds that are fluttering past, but they're tiny wax bills on the move, and that just can't count. Particularly when I've already got the added advantage of being on air for longer. And as I said about the secretary bird, and the reason why you can hear a crested barbet calling, the one thing about this is that my train of thought keeps getting interrupted. But Book Diva, you were wondering, on the subject of the secretary bird, what a good habitat would be for a bird like that. And the answer to that is long stretches of open grassland is where you will be most likely to find a secretary bird. So those sort of eastern sections of Kruger, a good place to start, as well as the open sections around, for example, the Arethusa airstrip. Now, fingers crossed, when we start operating on Cheetah Plains has nice, wide open grasslands close to the boundary of Kruger and Mala Mala, and I think that's also going to yield a far higher secretary bird count than others. Something to eagerly anticipate. That, and of course, regular cheetah sightings is also going to be an amazing experience. This habitat is not quite right for them. They do occasionally stroll through, but Cheetah Plains definitely have far more regular cheetah sightings on their section of land than we do around this particular area. So exciting news for our expansion of our Traverse area. I actually need to go and look in the image line systems. And Jim Butler has taken his daughter to Kruger, and she has now decided that she would like to start birding, and he approves on the basis that it is far better than buoying. Completely agree. Birds are definitely more fascinating. And you can tick several off. I'm, of course, joking. But you can tick several of them off a list, and you can continue to collect them throughout your life, which probably would be preferable not to do with any other option. Or you can build yourself up a lovely bird list. The nice thing about it is that learning to bird, in all seriousness, learning birding and applying the skills that you learn by doing it means that you can take that anywhere in the world, every place that you travel and explore. Sorry, everyone, stand by. I saw a flash of movement through there. Almost, could I be imagining things? I don't think so, though. Hold on, we have to go and investigate. Oh, there's something there. Let's go and figure out what it is. I need to try and find my way onto this fire break. It's just a flash of white, and I'm not sure if it's because I'm looking for wild dogs that it looked like it might be a tail. It's such a pity it's through this block. I don't want to drive off-road here unless I absolutely can confirm what it is. Luckily, there's a fire break that runs along the side of there. Probably going to be easiest access. Actually, it'll be easiest to turn around. I have to find out what this is now. It's going to drive me crazy otherwise. Brent has had to race back to camp to try and figure out why Rusty has disappeared off your screens completely. So what we'll do in that case is we will, for now, cancel the bird competition, but not cancel it. We'll continue to look for other bird species just to give you a rough idea of how this game would work properly. Unless, of course, he's out in the next 5 minutes or so, in which case I think he's had enough time to catch up. I think we'll cancel it for now, and we will continue on in a different vein, and then we'll continue this afternoon for the sunset safari. Otherwise, it's just not fair. I can't take a victory like that. It would be hollow. How do I get here? I'm trying to find a nice route in. James Blair was wondering if I've ever seen a grey-headed gull on Jeandre. Just wanted to show you why I did a sudden swerve. I'm not going to stop for too long because I want to go and investigate what I saw. And it's one of those reasons that it's important to be careful on these roads, especially after the rain. One tiny little African giant landsdale sitting on the edge there. There he is. Tiny little one. Usually they reach the size of my hand. This one is much, much tinier. Still got a couple of years growth to do. Now the African giant landsdale, I'd love to sit and look at it, but I'm not going to because I want to try and figure out. We're going on an adventure, by the way. We're going to go onto the fire break to get, rather than trying to push our way off-road where we don't know, because I don't know what it was I saw. It could have been a zebra for all I know. So I don't want to off-road unnecessarily, but I do want to figure it out. So we're going to go on an adventure along the fire break, which is not the easiest of roads at times, but it'll be fun nevertheless. A bit of a test of driving skills for us. James Blair, just to finish off your question, you wanted to know if I've ever seen a grey-headed gull on Jeandre. The answer is, James, no, I have not. Something to keep an eye out. You know, the amazing thing about gulls is that they cover tremendous distances and they wind up in the strangest of places and unexpected places. It's next to impossible to say with absolute 100% certainty you will never see that bird here. Just want to concentrate on getting to the sighting. So this fire break, I've spoken about the fire break. The fire break is exactly that. It runs, usually fire breaks, and this one is no exception, run parallel to the main sort of divisions between the various properties. And you'll find them spread throughout the Sabi Sands, and it is a way of, as the name suggests, creating a break to stop it or help to stop the spread of runaway fires. This could be very interesting. Watch your heads, everyone. As you can see, not a regularly utilized road per se. And in this particular case, rather soggy. Right, you've said you thought you saw wild dog ears. And I also did. To be completely honest, I thought I saw a wild dog tail. And I have no reason for thinking that except that we're in the right sort of area. I haven't seen any tracks at all on the Buffleshoek cut line, but that doesn't mean that they didn't come in further to the east or the west of us and ran down here. So fingers crossed, agreed, here's hoping that that was what I was seeing. I usually find it a very good idea to follow my instincts in this kind of respect. If I see something that my brain tells me is something, it's important to double check it. It's just up over this crest. The problem is it's taken me a bit too long to get around here. Everybody watch heads. Thank you, Wium. Peeled. It's that flash of white that is a giveaway. And I know I saw movement. I know I saw something in here. Oh, there's some old ginormous male lion tracks here as well. This is probably when he came in the other day onto Jeandre with that female. I can't really show you the right, and the angle's not that easy to get right. Also a distinctive possibility. Safari Dean suggesting maybe it was an impromptu leopard tail flick. Whatever I saw was white. So yes, it could be at the tip of a leopard's tail. Could have been a wild dog's tail. I don't know why my gut instinct said I saw a wild dog, because I barely saw it. I'm going to ask a favor, and that is just to keep an eye on the Jeandre Dam camera as well, because if it is a wild dog pack moving through here, I'm going to move at high speed to the south. No tracks though. Would have been roughly about here that I saw it. Oh, my apologies. You can't watch the Jeandre Dam camera apparently. It doesn't work at the moment during our live streams. My sincere apologies. You can't keep an eye on it. You can't. In that way, you cannot assist. But final control said that we can see it, so they'll. Whatever it was, this was on here, appears to have disappeared, which would be right for wild dog. We'll do a loop around the vicinity, see if we can't figure out where they've gone. If indeed it was them. I may, of course, have completely imagined it, but I don't think so. Oh, spider web to the face. A bit of a dip. And Shannon, you have complete faith in me. You say I have to say the name of the animal and it will magically appear. Shannon, I'd love to be able to have that ability. I really, really would. We'll try. We'll keep our fingers crossed and we'll have a go in that respect. Although I think I might have used up all of my lucky magic in the last few weeks. Very interesting angles that we're driving at now. Well, there we go, a bird for our bird list while we're here. One of the common ones. Gives me a chance to sit and listen as well.
Oh, there's the common bird.
Oh, sorry, on the top of the dead tree. Ah, oh, there we go. There's a lilac-breasted roller for you. Wium spotted a different one to the one I saw. And somewhere, tapping away, is a woodpecker. Just taking this opportunity to sit and listen for alarm calls.
Why don't you leave your flies at home?
Leave my flies alone, let them just sit.
No, leave them at home.
Leave them at home. Wium's told me I should have left my entourage of flies at home. Sorry, but I get lonely without them. I'm sorry, Wium. Just doesn't feel like a real drive. There's so many of them fluttering around us. We can't stop. No stopping unless it's for a very good reason, because otherwise the flies locate us. Ah! I was wondering, I thought you meant I must not swap them off my face. I was going to say that is next to impossible for me to do. They're all landing in my eyes and on my eyebrows. Janine, you were wondering about where Brent went, and unfortunately, Brent's vehicle, or Rusty, no longer has signal. There appears to be a problem, as is fairly inevitable. I mean, when you think about what we do and what we actually put not just the technology, the magic of the technology, being able to broadcast it live, but the fact that we bump around as we do on the vehicles. So all of the equipment getting constantly shifted and moved, even no matter how well it is secured within a vehicle, it makes sense that the different parts of the vehicle do occasionally just sort of throw up their hands and go on strike, if you could put it like that. And it seems as though Rusty's on strike this morning. They are working on it, and hopefully he will be back up and running as soon as possible. Okay. No sign of tracks here. Maybe, just maybe, I did imagine this. Maybe I made up some wild dogs in my head. Let's go loop the block anyway, just because I refuse to accept that. I really think I did see something. I'm just not entirely sure what it was. And speaking of new and exciting opportunities, Eric, who is watching in Pittsburgh, was wondering, when will we be able to traverse this new area? And Eric, sorry, my microphone has fallen down completely. Hold on one moment. Here we go. Let's try and reattach it. Stay. Eric, we don't have a precise date. It'll probably be somewhere in the next 2-3 weeks. Obviously, we are working on it as quickly as possible, but as you can imagine, for us, it's not just a question of driving there and starting up. We have to set up repeaters and antennas and so on, so that we are able to broadcast our signal across and to the satellite and to final control. So there's a couple of odds and ends that we need to tie up, and then we should be on. I can't give you a precise date, but fingers crossed it will be sometime in the next few weeks. I know we're all very excited, and we've spoken about the fact that we're probably going to argue extensively over who gets to go there first. Probably end up having to flip a coin to see who gets to go. Thank you to Ross and Angel Lady for giving us that update about the fish eagle at Arathusa Dam. I'm fairly far away from Arathusa at the moment. I'd love to race off there. Nice to see some fish eagles coming back up. It's actually been a while since I've seen them. Admittedly, I haven't been across to the Arathusa Dam in quite an extended period of time. Nevertheless, nice to hear that they are around. And particularly with the dams full again, we might be seeing more of them close to Jeandre as well. We very often hear them as they fly past, but I think most of them have been spending the majority of their time around the larger river systems of the Kruger and the Sabi Sands. Sure. Come on, wild dog. Or whatever I saw. It's frustrating me now. And yes, absolutely. Speaking of our entourage that Wium pointed out, Clayton, there are times of the year when the flies are worse than others, and this is a very good example of the time of year at which the flies are worse than others. Generally, the rainy season is when we see the most flies. Now, I'm complaining about it now, but actually this year has not been nearly as bad. Due to the drought, of course, it has not been nearly as bad as previous years. There's also certain types of animal sitting where if you sit with them, you are more likely to be surrounded by flies. The most clear example of that is buffalo, particularly a large... Sorry, just listening to Game Drive channel. Particularly when it is a large breeding herd of buffalo. Lions are also bad. There's always flies around lions that then come to you. Now, the only thing that's unpleasant about these particular flies is that they are biting flies. They are stable flies, and they bite and they leave quite an itchy mark wherever they happen to have landed. They don't always do it, but they do sometimes. Just really want to do a quick loop of this area. And we'll start. Then we'll know for certain if I imagine things or not. Oh, a little bit damp here. Now that is an incredibly churned up section of road up ahead of us. Ooh, slippery, slippery, everybody hold on. Elephants have turned this into a wallow. That is exactly what they've done. They've spent a considerable period of time here, and they've started turning it